All right, so you've learned some of the basics of Unity and scripting in Unity, but you're not going to use Unity to make a text-based game. So we're going to start to do some things that involve some graphics in Unity. So we're going to create a total of 4 scenes. We start with our sample scene, which I'm going to rename to Start. We're also going to create a game scene, a win scene, and a lose scene. Okay, and we are going to start with the start screen, which is already open for me. So first of all, I'm going to delete the global light 2D. That's really only necessary if you have like sprites and images that are being lit in the game. For this, we're just going to be basically using UI elements, so we won't need that. So we're going to add some text to our game. So I'm going to go to UI canvas, and I'm going to create a Text Mesh Pro text object. Okay, if it tells you this, if this is the first time you've accessed Text Mesh Pro, just go ahead and import the essentials. Take just a couple seconds, and extras you can import if you'd like, but not necessary. And we're going to double click on this and it will kind of zoom in. So the canvas that it creates, this is where your UI elements will be rendered. By default, the render mode is overlay, which means whatever is within the canvas will be overlaid on top of the game. So it doesn't matter where the game itself is. Like my main camera is down here. That doesn't matter. The canvas is kind of its own separate thing. So if I look at the game, you can see the text box is down here in the corner, which is where it is in the canvas. So there are other render modes. You can look at the slides to see how those work, but we're going to be using overlay. So I'm going to rename my text object. This will be kind of a welcome message. So I'll say welcome to Number Guesser. Okay, and I'll move it kind of to the center here. We'll just get the text all nice and centered. And then I'm going to create another text object. Which I will rename as subtitle. And this one I want to tell them to, or tell the player to guess a number between 1 and 1,000. Okay, and I'll make this text box also center the text. And I'll resize this text box a bit since need a little more space there. And I'll go and make my welcome text a little bit bigger just to make it stand out a bit. Okay. All right, so we have our 2 text boxes. There's a lot more you can change about the text, but that's what we're going to focus on right now. You can change more if you want. All right, so my main camera, if I select my main camera in my game, there's an environment tab you can click on, and you can change the background color if you'd like. So I'm going to change it to a nice bright orange. I'm going to copy the hexadecimal code here and make sure I change that in all of my scenes to be the same color. You might see it say skybox in the other scenes. You can change it to solid color to use that same color. So I'll do that in all 4 of my scenes. Oh, I already did it in lose, apparently. Start, I should have already done it in. Win. Change that. So game, I don't think I did it in. There we go. All right, and we can preview that change in the game tab, and you can see nice bright and orange, hurts your eyes a little bit, but it really stands out. All right, so what we're going to do now is create some buttons in our start scene. So to do that, I'll right-click, go to UI Canvas. I want to create a button Text Mesh Pro, and I will call this the Start button. So when you create a Text Mesh Pro button, you have your button object here, and also as a child of it, you have a Text Mesh Pro object. This is how you can actually change what the text looks like and change the text itself. So I'm going to change this to Start, and we will move the button over this way. All right. So we have different button states. You can see when the button is selected. So the normal color is just what the button normally looks like. Highlighted color is when you hover over it. So I'm going to keep it white and change it to a blue if I hover over it. Pressed is when you're actively pressing it. Selected if it's the last button you've pressed. So let's change these all to different colors just so you can see the differences here. Pressed you might not actually be able to see. And disabled is if the button's disabled. That usually happens via the code somehow. So if I run my game, so I hover over it, it changes to blue. Click, and I'm holding right now, it changes to green. And now it's selected, so it changes to that pink/purplish color. If you want the text to change as well, you can add a button component here. So you would go to UI Canvas and then button, and it would give you the same button state options. Okay, but I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm going to make this so it's a lighter color so the black's a little easier to see on it. And then pressed, I'll just keep pressed the same color. I generally keep pressed and highlighted the same. And selected, we'll just change that back to white. All right, so we're going to make a copy of our Start button. I'm going to right-click on it and duplicate it. And this one I'm going to call the Quit button. Not quiz. And I want to move it over to the other side. And I will change the text to quit. Right, and you can even do that. You can copy and paste objects between scenes. So I could right-click and copy something and then paste it in a totally different scene. You may have noticed earlier this event system that shows up. This is necessary for anything involving actions in the UI. So actions including clicking buttons. So when you go to another scene, you need to make sure you have the event system if you want to be able to click things, which you probably do. All right, so we're going to right click here. We're going to create an empty game object, and I'm going to call it level manager. This is going to be used to go between our different scenes or our different levels. And I'm going to change the position of it to 0, 0, 0 just to kind of put it out of the way. In Unity, as I said with the text-based version of the number guesser game, you always have to have a game object attached to a script. Or other way around, a script has to be attached to a game object. So I will create a new script, and we'll call it level manager with no space, capital L, capital M. Create and add this to my assets folder. And then I'll go to assets and I'll double click on it to open it up. All right, so I'm in Visual Studio Code. This is different than Visual Studio that's installed on our computers, but you could install this as well and use Visual Studio Code if you prefer it. I'm going to delete the start and update methods. We don't need that for our level manager script. Visual Studio Code is giving me some suggestions of what to do. I'm going to ignore those suggestions by pressing escape. I'm going to create a method, public void load level, and then parentheses string level. So basically what this is going to do is we send it the level to load, the scene to load, and it will load that. We're going to do a debug.log though to see if this is actually working. So I'll save this. Visual Studio Code auto saves, but you need to make sure you save your script before you go back to Unity. Unity will load that script. And I now want to select my start button. And I want to go down to the button section where you find this on click section. And I want to click on the little plus. So here, it allows me to drag an object. So I want to drag the level manager object, not the script. When I do that, it puts it here, and then we can choose code from that level manager object. So I go level manager and then load level. And when I want to start the game, I want to load the game scenes. I'm going to put game there. So I'll run my game to test this out. I want to have the console open. And I click on start, and there we go. All right, so it looks like that is working. So now that I know that's working, I can put the actual code in here that will load the level. So I first of all at the top want to add a using statement. This is how you import code and make some of your lines of code shorter. So I'm going to import Unity Engine.scene management. And then in load level, I'll type scene manager.load scene level. Also going to put a function here to quit the game that we will load with our quit button. So switching back to Unity, I want to select the quit button now, hit the plus, drag the level manager object all the way over here. You can also use this button to select it. And then go to level manager and this time quit game. So quit game will not work when you're just previewing. Start will work. I can click on start. But actually, I forgot about this. Start does not work right away. It says it has not been added to the active build profile. So what I want to do is I want to go to the file menu and choose build profiles. I want to open the scene list. You can see start is here right now, but none of the other scenes are. So I'm going to go into my scenes folder, switch back to this window, and I can drag and drop the rest of the scenes here. You can also have all of your scenes open and then add open scenes. The order doesn't really matter except for the scene that's first. Whatever scene is first in this list will be the one that starts when the game starts. So now that I did that, I'm going to do build and run, which will basically create an executable version of my game. And this sometimes can take a little bit. And on Windows, if you ever get stuck in your game, like your quit button doesn't work maybe, then you can always press Alt F4 to exit it. All right, so the game's starting up, and oh my goodness, that's tiny. Okay. But my quit button does work. And if the text looks tiny, you can change how the canvas scales. So I'm going to select my canvas, and we want to change the UI scale mode. Right now it's constant pixel size, which means things stay the exact size they are here. We want it to scale with the screen size. And now if I run my build, it goes a little faster the second time because there isn't as much it has to create. All right, and that looks better. If I click on my start button, it clearly changes to a different scene. This is the game scene. There's no way of getting out of this other than just quitting the game because I don't have a quit button or any buttons there. All right, so let's edit the win and the lose scenes so they have play again and quit buttons. I'm going to take what I have in start. I'm going to take my canvas, event system, and my level manager, and I'm going to copy these things. I'm going to paste them into lose. We don't need the main camera because it's already there. I'm going to paste them into win. And then I will just change a couple things around. I'll change the welcome, and this is the win scene, to some sort of winning message. I don't need the subtitle on the win and the lose scenes, so I'll delete that. Then our start button, I'm going to rename to play again button. The quit button will still be the quit button. And then I want to change the text of play again to play again. And my play again button is loading the game scene. So that looks like that's working okay. So I'll just do a preview here. I don't need to go into the build unless I'm trying to test something like the quit button. Play again. Okay, and that goes to the game scene. So that's good. We'll edit the lose button. Delete my subtitle. And change the welcome message to silly human, you can never defeat me. And then our start button will rename to the play again button. we'll change the text to play again. And we'll test that out as well. You can obviously move things around, make things look a little nicer. But I'm just doing the basics right here. All right, so then I'm going to copy some things again. I'm going to copy my level manager, canvas, and event system from Lose. And I'm going to go into the game scene and paste them here. But the game scene is going to be a little bit different. So our welcome message, I'm going to rename this to guess. And I'm just going to put the text to say, is your number 0? That will eventually be replaced. And then play again. I'm going to rename this to guess higher. Quit will be guess lower. And I'll duplicate this to make a third button called correct. My correct button. Then I'll add the text of all of them. It's correct. This is lower or guess lower. This is higher. And then higher should probably be on this side. Correct we'll put in the middle. Lower we'll put on the left. I'm not really organizing these where they line up super nicely, but we're just doing this as a quick lesson here. So now we're ready to actually do the guessing. So what I want to do is I want to go to where I saved the original number guesser, the text-based version. So it's important to know where you have that saved. All right, so I have it saved right here. And I want to take the script, the number guesser script, and I'm going to drag it into my assets pane. Okay, if you don't have your number guesser script for whatever reason or can't find it, the slides have a version you can download. And then we're going to double click it because we're going to make some changes to it. So first of all, we're going to add an integer variable called max guesses. We're going to set it equal to 10. So you have 10 possible guesses. We're going to remove all the print statements in start because we're not printing to the console anymore. We will add using Unity Engine .scene management to the top of this. And we're going to change our new guess method. We'll keep the guess equals line, but get rid of the print. And we'll make max guesses go down by 1 by saying max guesses minus minus. And if max guesses is less than or equal to 1 or 0, or if it is 0, then we will load the win scene. We can also delete the entire update method because that has to do with keyboard input, which we do not need in this version of the game. We can also get rid of count because max guesses is basically taking the place of count in this version of the game. We're going to make two more methods, public void guess higher. So when you guess higher, the minimum goes up and we call new guess again. Public void guess lower. When you do that, the maximum goes down by 1 and we call guess again. All right, so back in Unity, it's going to reload our script. And we have our text or our guess text object already. But if you haven't added that, you can add it now. And then at the top, we are going to add using UnityEngine.ui. And we are going to make a serialize field variable. It's not going to be text. It's going to be tmpro dot text mesh pro UGY. Okay, so basically a text mesh pro element, and it's called guess text. Oh, I missed the word private here. Okay, so this is a private variable, which all these are as well by default. But serialized field makes it so it's accessible to Unity. So you'll see that when we go back to the code in a second here. And then within new guess, we want to change guess text dot text, and we want it to equal, giving me too many suggestions here. We want to say, is it guess, and then a question mark. So now if I switch back to Unity, it's going to reload things. Does it have a problem with serialized field? Yes, because I spelled it wrong. There we go. All right, so now back in Unity, it reloads the script. And if I, in the game scene, I need to create an empty game object for number guesser. I'll call this number guesser. I'll drag my number guesser script over here. And when you do that, you'll see this guess text option. Okay, that's available because I put serialized field, spelled correctly eventually, and that lets Unity access it. But it prevents other scripts from accessing it because it's not public. So then I will take my guess text box and drag it over here, and that will be available. And I also want to, for lower and higher, instead of level manager now, I want them to be using number guesser. And lower, I want to use guess lower. Higher, I want to use number guesser. Guess higher. And that should do it. So I will just start here. I don't need to go back to the start scene because we know that's already working. All right, so let's say my number is 555. So we guess higher, lower, lower, higher, higher, lower, higher. Uh-oh, close. Lower, higher. We got it in the last one, but that was 10 guesses. So I guess we could make it 11 if we wanted to make them actually be able to use 10 guesses. But let's see what if correct works now. Correct. Did I not fix that? Oh, I think I still have this going to the game scene. Select the correct button. Oh, I have a quit game. All right. So we want to load level, and we lose if the computer gets the number correct. All right. So that is your working number guesser game. So just some basic stuff with the user interface and the canvas. You might use the user interface and the canvas for your games. You probably won't build an entire game just based on UI elements. So with the next lesson, we will get into using some sprites and images.